Well, hi guys. Today we're going to have a look at how to install a Rust development environment on Linux. That'll include a debugger as well, and using Visual Studio Code. Alright, so the first thing we do is, let me just open my little notes here. So, alright, we need to install firstly Visual Studio Code, okay? So you've got two ways of doing that. So you can either go to your software manager. I'm on Linux Mint here, Cinnamon. And alright, so we go to the software manager and we can do a search for Visual Studio Code. Takes a little moment here. Remember, I'm on a virtual machine. Alright, so let's type in Visual Studio Code. Alright, and it's going to come up as two versions for us. We've got the Visual Studio Code from Microsoft here. Alright, so it's a flat pack, okay? And the problem with the flat packs are great, but the problem with that is their size. Okay, so that's a 1.1 gigabyte download. Alright, and there you can also go and look at the open source one. I've tried the open source one and the normal one. Both of them work totally fine under normal circumstances, but this is also a 1.1 gig download flat hub, so flat pack. So I don't want to install it using this. I found I have to run through too many hoops to get it to work properly. I prefer going to the website and actually downloading it from the website. So if we do a search for Visual Studio Code, alright, we can open it up and immediately click on the download. Okay, and alright, since we're on Linux, I'm on a Debian distro, so I will be selecting the Debian here, .deb, and okay, so it'll start that download for me, and it's just a couple of meg versus, you know, it's 60 meg versus 1.1 gig for the installer, but still it's a very quick install if you do it this way. That flat pack way just takes forever. Okay, so we've got Visual Studio running in the background then. The other thing that we can go and do, if you look at the list here, is what I always do on a new machine, is to install the build essential. This is for Debian based distros. I'm not sure what you use on, for instance, OpenSUSE, but you'll have something similar to make sure you got the latest versions of GCC, Make, etc. Alright, so for any development tool, you might already be doing C++ development, for instance, and you would have something like this already installed. So I'm just going to make sure that it's installed to the latest version. I know actually it's not on the new install of Mint. Okay, I'm going to install that. So we'll say paste on that. The thing is though, I'm probably not going to be able to install it while Visual Studio Code is busy installing. So I'm going to have to wait a moment. Oops. Where is my Visual Studio Code now? Have I already installed it, or did I never download? Oh, hang on a sec. Oh, come on. I downloaded it, I think, but never installed it. Yeah, okay. So there it is. It's downloaded. So I just open that file up, and it's going to ask me to do the installation. Okay. All right. It's 265 meg download versus 1.1 gig for the flat pack. It's understandable, but I'm just saying that I prefer not to do through the flat pack in this case. All right, and let's start that install. All right, and there we have it. Visual Studio Code is installed, and we can close this down and now run this sudo apt-get installed build essential. All right, and let that run. Okay, it's just asking me, am I sure? There are some stuff to install, and then I accept the default, press enter, yes. Okay, and it'll download everything and install it for me. What we can do so long is just go and have a look at Visual Studio Code. So if you come over here to programming, Visual Studio Code is installed. We can open that up, And there's something I always do when I start Visual Studio Code up the first time, and that is to switch off telemetry. It sends stuff to Microsoft, and I don't like that, so I disable that. All right, taking a moment to start up here. All right, and that's Visual Studio up. And so what I do is I go, File, Preferences, Settings, and type in telemetry. Oops. Okay, telemetry, and there's two here. Enable crash reporters, stuff sent to Microsoft, as well as data and errors to be sent to Microsoft Online Services. You don't have to do this, but yes, I do switch off both. This message down here was just telling you that you can do that. All right, once you've done that, you need to do a restart, and we click on restart there, and it will open up Visual Studio Code again, and telemetry will be disabled. Okay, so let's let that just start up. Okay, so there we go. Telemetry is disabled. We can close that down. All right, and close Visual Studio Code for now again. All right, we just wait for this build essential to stop. All right, so build essential is done. So what I do at this point, I close this terminal. Okay, so let's go and look again at our list of what we have to do. So we've done Visual Studio Code, we've done build essential. Okay, another thing we can do is to install Git. Okay, you don't have to have Git installed to do Rust development with Visual Studio. But I mean, nowadays, we do store everything on GitLab or GitHub. And Git is quite an important development tool nowadays, so we install that as well. So I'll just copy that. I'll go to the terminal again and just make sure that Git isn't installed. I'll just type out the words Git, and it should give us an error. Yes, it's not installed. Okay, and we then just paste this here, and sudo apt get git. Sudo apt get, that should be installed. I forgot to mention that. Sudo apt get install git. All right, and it will ask me for my password. Yes. Okay, let me just quickly update this sudo apt get install. Or you can just say, instead of sudo apt get, you can just say sudo apt, depending on your distro. All right, so close that. All right, so it's asking me on Git here, are you sure you want to continue? Default is yes, so press enter. Yes, we want to install that. All right, and there's Git installed, so we can just see what version we've got. Oops, got a D in there, version. Okay, so 2251. All right, so that's good. Okay, the next thing we need to do is to install Rust itself. So if we go to our list again, it tells you must go to this website here. All right, it's basically, you can just go to the rustlang.org website and it'll tell you how to do the install, but this is a direct link to it. So I'll just paste that in here, and let's go to the install. And what it's going to do is give us a command we must run, which is going to download the installer. It's this command here. So let me just zoom in a bit here. All right, so we want to take that entire command. Okay, copy it. It's a curl. So let's stick that in our terminal. Okay, and paste that in. All right, and it'll install the installer for us. Okay, so just one thing you can notice here is saying modify path variable yes. Okay, sometimes that doesn't always happen. I've never had problems with it. Well, actually, that's not true. I have had once, but typically you don't get problems with that. All right, so we just accept the default, just one enter. All right, and it goes ahead and proceeds with the installation. Okay, so I'm pretty sure we're going to have path problems. Just in my test on this particular version of Linux I had. So I'm going to do a quick search for you so long so you can see. So let's say Linux how set path, or how, let's say how add to path in bash rc. Okay, and it'll tell you, so we can do an echo and look at our current path. Okay, so how to add a directory to your path in Linux. Let's just take that one. And okay, how to add a directory to your path in Linux. We come down a little bit. Let's see what it says here. Listing your path. Oh, this one, here we go, adding a directory to your path, export path. Okay, that'll be temporary if you use that. Okay, we want it to be permanent. All right, so here we go, making changes permanent. Okay, so we got to edit bash rc. Okay, so it says here, okay, so we can copy that. All right, and come back to Rust here. You'll notice it's going to tell us on the Rust page here that yeah, in Rust development environment, all tools are installed in the cargo bin directory. Okay, but it does say that sometimes the path is not correct, not set. Okay, during installation, Rustup will attempt to configure the path. Because of differences between platforms, etc., etc., it does not always work. Okay, so we might have to do it ourselves. In fact, we're probably going to have to on this version of Linux, from what I've seen before. Okay, so if we come back to our Rust is still busy installing. Okay, that's it. Rust is done. And here it tells us to configure your current shell, run that command. Okay. But let's see, sorry, let's keep that open. All right, come on. Let's see if it does actually have the shell set up correctly for us. We'll open up a new terminal and just type in, let's say, for instance, cargo. It's one of the Rust commands. Cargo is not found. All right, so quite clearly, the path is not set up correctly. So what we must do then is edit the bash rc file in your home folder. All right, we go down to the very bottom of that file. All right, and we paste what we just got from that website. You'll see the export path equals. Okay, so this bit here must be replaced with what we want it to be. So let's come on. Oh, oops. Control Z. Can you believe it? Yes. All right. So go down to the bottom again. Okay. So edit, paste. Okay, and let's get rid of this bit. All right, and we copy what they tell us on their website, which is cargo bin. All right, so we copy that. We go back to our path here and oops, and paste that. Okay, paste that. All right, so now that should be saved. Okay, save it, Control X, and if we kill this terminal and open a new terminal, bash rc gets read and the path gets read, and if we type in cargo now, it should pick it up. There we go, it works fine. All right, so we've installed Rust, Git, Visual Studio. Okay, so once we've got those things installed, according to our documentation here, well, we can do a Rustup update just to make sure that we've got the latest version of Rust. All right, so in a terminal again, we just paste that, Rustup update. We should be on the latest. Yeah, we're on the latest, so all good. All right, so close that terminal down. All right, so now we need to go to Visual Studio Code. So that's in programming, Visual Studio. Well, hang on. Before, let's not go there yet. All right. So what we can do is I'm going to open a new terminal window here. So remember, we're in our home now. So if I do a ls-l, all right, you can put your projects where you want them in documents or whatever the case may be. What I normally do is I create a projects folder. All right, let's change into that. Okay, and so there's nothing in there at the moment. Now you can create, for instance, another folder in there, Rust, or for all your Rust projects or whatever, or just right here, just start putting your stuff in here. So that's what I'm going to do. So in Rust, to create a new project, we use cargo. Okay, so we say cargo new for a new project. Okay, this is an executor, a binary. Okay, so we just call it my app. All right, let's say that. All right, so it goes ahead and he's already built it. So if we do a LSL, you'll notice that directory is there. All right, so if we say cd to my app and ls-l, or let's do an ll. All right, so we can see the hidden files. So we've got a cargo toml and a src file for our source. Okay, then we've got two hidden files, which is our git stuff. All right, so it already adds git to it. When you create it using cargo and you create your project, it assumes you're going to be using git, so it's already set things up for you. All right, now normally with Visual Studio Code, at this point you could say code, which will open Visual Studio Code, and then say code dot, and it'll open this folder in Visual Studio Code. All right, so you don't have to open Visual Studio Code and then navigate to this folder. You say code dot. All right, and it takes a moment, but it'll open Visual Studio for us. All right, and there it goes. It's opened up. You'll see on the left here, there's our, there's our source folder, there's our main RS, all right, and yeah. So now what you want to do in Visual Studio Code is press Control and what is it? I think it's the back tick, or the tilde key, the left of the number 1 key. All right, control that, and it'll open up your terminal at the bottom here. Okay, you see it's got my bash terminal open. All right, so if I want to test this app, for instance, that is created for me, I can say cargo and just do a build on it. You could do, I think it's a test as well, if I remember correctly. But all right, you do a build. Let's see if it builds fine. Okay, and there we go. It's building, and all should be fine. Okay. Now there's okay, so it's good. All right. So in fact, we can actually run it. Okay. Just say cargo run. And it'll run that file for us, and here it says hello world. All right, as we've got it up top here. All right, print line hello world. All right, but the thing is, we don't have any code completion or anything like that installed. All right, so again, if we come look here, all right, we have to include these following extensions from Visual Studio Code. So it's Rust, Beta Toml, and Code LLDB. The LLDB is for our debugger. All right, you don't need it, but of course, I mean, it's nice to code with the debugger. Beta Toml is if I open this Toml file, this is a configuration file for our project. So it's telling me there's some stuff I can install for Toml, but I already know what I want. So it'll add nice colors for us and so forth. So the first thing we do is we go here to extensions, and we select Rust. Okay, so we want to install Rust. The Rust extension, here it is. Okay, and we click on install, and that'll go ahead and do the installation for us. Okay, the extension is enabled. Good. All right, then we want Beta Toml. All right, Beta Toml, he's found it. There it is. Even Beta Toml, I haven't tried that one yet. Maybe that's something you can try and have a look at, but there's not much to a Toml file, so don't know how much better you can get. But all right, so but you can try it. All right, so Toml is installed, Beta Toml is installed, and then the last one we've got is code LLDB. All right, for our debugger. All right, there that is. Okay, and we say install that. Okay, and it's saying acquiring code LLDB platform package. So it's a bit of a larger install. It's installing some extras for us. All right, and it says it's installed. Normally I think you'd need to restart here, but either, let's see. All right, so if we go back to the top here, go to the Explorer, we click on our main.rs, and okay, some components is not installed, okay, the Rust extension. So yes, we can say yes to that. All right, so we install that. So yes, this is what we need, the Rust analysis, etc. So it's going to download all that for us. All right, components successfully installed, okay. And it's not saying we need to, terminal will be reused by task. Okay, so we don't need to do anything. So if I now, for instance, say again, print line, there's code completion for us, there's print line, etc. Okay, so in effect, for the installation side of Rust, we're basically complete. Okay, we can come in here and we can say, I just pressed enter there, and we can say, you know, if you want to do a release build, for instance, we can do cargo build release. All right, so it's going to do a release build for us, and maybe you want to run the release build from within this terminal. So we say cargo run, and we say the release version, and we'll run the release version. It immediately says hello world. All right, for the debugging, okay. There's one extra little step here. So let's say, so on the left here, you'll see there's that little red little button there. If you click that, that means where the debugger is going to stop. All right. And as you may know, some of you guys, you know, C# developers, it's kind of fairly custom shortcut keys that they use. F5 is to start the debugger. So we say F5. All right. And now it's going to come up and he's going to give us this issue here. Okay. No launch configuration has been provided. Okay, so okay to that, okay, and you can choose what you want to do. You can just say, okay, so, you know, let's say yes, okay, and he creates this file for us. You see, he's stuck it up over here, launch.json. Now, the important thing to note, okay, is when you do a debug of your Rust code, okay, the debugger doesn't automatically compile your code or anything like that. All that stuff is command line driven, okay. You know, you've got to build your program and so forth. So if you want to debug your latest version of your program, you've got to make sure that you do a cargo build on it. This will build your debug version. All right. You'll notice here in target. Okay. So if I say build, all right, so it's built a debug version. It's got a release from what we did just now, but here's our debug version. All right. So now it knows. All right. When I say F5, it's supposed to know that it must run that particular file. All right. Okay, and there we go, and it's on it, and so it's broken into it now. And as per normal, you can say F10, and it'll go to the next line. If it was a function, you can say F11. You go into the function, for instance. Fairly standard debugging stuff. And F5 is to continue running, so it's finished. All right. Now sometimes you may run into a problem with your debugger. If you go to launch.json here, you'll see here there is this workspace folder. All right. Sometimes this or CWD, the working directory here. All right. You might have to specify where your exe file is more specifically, all right, than saying the workspace folder. So all you need to do is you say target build, and then the name of it is my dash app. Oops, my okay. What's it complaining about here now? Target. Well, that's firstly wrong. Okay, I'm not sure what it's complaining about now. Linux versus Windows, you know, my mistake. Sorry, guys. Worked on Windows just now. So, all right. So you're telling it more specifically exactly where that file is that you want to debug. So if you save that file and you click on terminal here again and you say F5, okay. Okay, so that path is incorrect, but my dash app, okay, but you can fiddle with it, all right. But that's sometimes your problem if you can't do your debug. All right, it's just to make sure that that path is the working directory there is correct. Okay, you can pass arguments to your binary. All right, by adding them here. Okay, if I remember correctly, the each, like let's say for instance you have a -h for help that you want to send through. All right, so it's like that and -h. All right, and that'll send a -h through. If you want to have after the -h, for instance, a space and something else, all right, so it's comma and then -t for whatever the else is, and it'll put a space between -h and -t. All right, so that's how you do your command line stuff. But that's basically it. That's getting up your Rust stuff. Works great. And if you want to, remember you can often you're on the debug console after you've done a debug. Let's switch the debug off there. All right, we go back to terminal again. You can have multiple terminals. Okay. You'll notice that you've got bash. This is the original one that I started with just now. When I pressed F5 to start the debugger, it created a new terminal called debug executable. All right, so we're working in here. Now, sometimes I don't go back to this one again. All right, I just stay on this one. So if I want to rebuild my program, let's say, for instance, I make a change and I say, hello world again. All right, if I debug that now, it's not going to work. All right, because the debugger is not going to be aware of this new line. We have to do a build. So like I say, normally we would be on this bash, yeah, we would do a rebuild, yeah, but I just stick here in the debug terminal that was open for me, and I just start again. I'll say, okay, cargo build. All right, we do a quick build again, and I'll put my breakpoint on the first one, F5, and we'll can step through it, and there we're doing our debugging of our Rust application. All right, and yeah, of course, is also you can click on this here. If you want to stop the debugger, you can just stop on that red square there. So that's basically it. That's getting your Rust environment up on a Linux machine with your debugger. Windows is slightly different. It's very similar, but slightly different. Like for instance, to install the debugger, you need to install PHP first. So not Python, okay, but that I'll show in a different video for the Windows guys. But for the Linux guys, that's it. There you've got a Rust environment set up. You can, if you want to create a new file, it's all under source here, so you can create a new file, a new folder, etc. But okay, that's I would recommend, if you don't know Rust, I would say go read what we refer to as the book. All right, on the Rust website. Read the book, go through the book. There's examples in there and stuff. It'll teach you how to use Rust, how namespacing works specifically as well, threading. It's all that sort of stuff is covered in the book. So there you go, guys. I hope you get it up and running and have a good time. Go code. See you, man. Bye.